Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the pile of twisted metal floating in space. His old ship, the Lucky Strike, moved slowly through the debris field. Every piece of scrap metal he could find meant money for food and fuel. Life was hard for a salvage worker in the outer colonies. The debris came from what used to be the Axelon Empire's royal fleet. Jake had heard stories about the great space battle that happened here 3 weeks ago. The alien empire had torn itself apart in a civil war. Now all that remained were broken ships and dead dreams floating in the dark. Jake's ship was old and patched up with spare parts. The engines made strange noises, and the life support system worked only half the time. But it was his ship, and it kept him alive in the cold emptiness of space. He had bought it with every credit he had saved from working in the mining colony since he was 16. Another day, another pile of junk, Jake said to himself as he guided his ship through the wreckage. His scanner beeped softly as it found pieces of valuable metal. Most of it was common steel and aluminum, worth only a few credits per ton, but sometimes he got lucky and found rare metals or working computer parts. The Lucky Strike's computer spoke in a flat, mechanical voice. Life sign detected. Distance 2 kilometers. Signal is weak. Jake sat up straight in his pilot chair. Life sign? Out here? He looked at his scanner screen. A small red dot blinked slowly among all the gray dots that marked dead metal. Must be a mistake. Nothing could survive out here for 3 weeks. But the computer was old, not stupid. It had saved Jake's life more than once by finding things other salvage workers missed. He changed course toward the red dot. As he got closer, Jake saw something that made him catch his breath. It was an escape pod, but not like any human escape pod he had ever seen. This one was beautiful. Its surface was covered in patterns that looked like flowing water. Even damaged and drifting in space, it looked like a work of art. That's Axelon design, Jake whispered. He had seen pictures of their ships before. The aliens were known for making everything beautiful, even their weapons of war. But if there's someone alive in there, Jake knew what finding a living Axelon could mean. The different factions in their civil war would pay huge amounts of money for prisoners. Information about enemy movements, battle plans, or royal family members could make him rich enough to buy a real ship and leave the salvage business forever. But it could also get him killed. Every faction in the Axelon civil war was dangerous. Some wanted to make peace with humans. Others wanted to destroy every human colony they could find. Jake had no way of knowing which side the person in the pod belonged to. The computer spoke again. Warning, life support in target vessel is failing. Estimated time remaining 47 minutes. Jake stared at the pod on his screen. 47 minutes. If someone was alive in there, they would be dead soon. He could just wait, then salvage the pod after they died. It would be safer that way. Computer, can you tell me anything else about the life form? Negative. Hull interference prevents detailed scanning. However, the pod's design suggests high-ranking occupant, possibly royal family. Royal family. Jake's hand started to shake a little. A living member of the Axelon royal family would be worth more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. But it would also make him a target for every bounty hunter, mercenary, and government agent in the galaxy. He thought about his life. The tiny apartment on the mining station where he grew up, the way the rich colonists looked at him like he was dirt, the empty feeling in his stomach when there wasn't enough money for food. A royal Axelon could change everything. But then he thought about someone dying alone in that pod, waiting for help that might never come, knowing they only had minutes left to live. Jake had grown up poor, but his mother had taught him one thing before she died. "Always help people when you can," she had said. "It doesn't matter who they are or where they come from. Being poor doesn't mean being cruel. Computer, bring us alongside the pod. Prepare the docking clamps. Warning, unknown. Alien life form. Potential biological hazard. Recommend maintaining safe distance." "I heard you the first time," Jake said. He guided his ship close to the pod. The docking clamps reached out like metal arms and grabbed hold of the alien vessel. "Open the airlock, but keep the inner door sealed until I say otherwise." Jake put on his spacesuit and grabbed his emergency medical kit. It wasn't much, just basic supplies for treating humans. He had no idea if it would work on an alien, but it was better than nothing. The airlock finished cycling, and Jake opened the door to the pod. The inside was dark except for a few blinking lights. The air felt warm and humid, and it smelled like flowers and electricity. Jake turned on his suit's lights and stepped inside. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. The alien was clearly female, though she was unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. She was tall and graceful, with 4 arms instead of 2. Her skin was covered in what looked like armor, but it seemed to grow from her body instead of being worn over it. The armor was beautiful, with colors that shifted from blue to green to purple as Jake's lights moved across it. But she was dying. Jake could see that right away. Her breathing was shallow, and the patterns of light under her armor were fading. Strange liquid that might have been blood leaked from several wounds. The alien's eyes opened as Jake approached. They were large and golden, with intelligence and sadness that Jake could feel even across the species barrier. She tried to speak, but only weak sounds came out. Jake knelt beside her and opened his medical kit. "Hey, it's going to be okay," he said, even though he knew she probably couldn't understand him. "I'm going to help you." As he worked to stop her bleeding and get her breathing better, Jake made a choice that would change his life forever. He would save this alien no matter what it cost him. It was the right thing to do, and his mother had taught him to always do the right thing, even if it killed him. Jake had moved the alien queen to his ship's small medical bay, but he quickly realized he was in over his head. Her breathing was getting worse, and he couldn't figure out how to stop the strange blue liquid leaking from her wounds. His basic medical supplies were meant for humans, not aliens with 4 arms and armor that seemed to be part of their body. "Computer, send a message to Lisa Parker. Emergency code 7, Jake said as he tried to make the alien more comfortable on his medical table. Message sent. Response time estimated at 6 hours based on last known location. 6 hours felt like forever, but Lisa was the only person Jake trusted who might know how to help. She had been a military engineer before she started working on her own. More importantly, she had studied alien biology during her time in the HFY service. Jake stayed with the alien, watching her breathe and hoping she would live long enough for help to arrive. Sometimes she would open her golden eyes and look at him. He started talking to her even though he knew she couldn't understand. "My name is Jake," he said. "I'm going to take care of you. I don't know who you are, but nobody deserves to die alone in space." The alien tried to speak several times. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes. But Jake couldn't understand any of it. However, her skin would light up with different patterns when she talked. Jake wondered if that was part of how her people communicated. 5 hours later, Jake's computer announced an incoming ship. Lisa Parker's vessel, the Night Runner, was sleek and fast compared to Jake's patched-up salvage ship. She docked quickly and came aboard with several cases of equipment. Lisa was a tall woman with short black hair and serious eyes. She wore practical clothes and moved like someone who had seen combat. When she saw the alien on Jake's medical table, she stopped and stared. "Jake, do you have any idea what you've done?" she asked quietly. "I saved someone's life," Jake replied. "That's all I know." Lisa set down her equipment and began scanning the alien with devices Jake had never seen before. "This isn't just any alien, Jake. Look at the quality of that bio-armor, the way it's integrated with her body. This is high-level Axelon biotech. I think you've rescued someone very important." "Important how?" "Like royalty important." Lisa connected more scanning equipment to the alien. "Her physiology is amazing. The armor isn't just protection, it's a complete life support system. It regulates her body temperature, filters toxins, and even stores nutrients. But it's been damaged, and that's why she's dying." Lisa worked for hours, using a combination of human medicine and improvised techniques to stabilize the alien. Jake helped where he could, mostly by holding equipment and staying out of the way. As Lisa worked, the alien became more alert. She began making soft musical sounds and her skin patterns became brighter. At one point, she reached out with one of her 4 hands and touched Jake's arm. Her skin felt warm, and Jake could swear he felt a tiny electric shock. "I think she's trying to thank you," Lisa said. "Axelon communication is partly electrical. She might be able to share basic emotions through touch. Can we understand what she's saying?" "Maybe. Let me try something." Lisa pulled out a small device from one of her cases. "This is a basic universal translator. It's not perfect, but it might help." She placed the device near the alien and adjusted some settings. After a few minutes, the device began making sounds that were almost like words. "Pain. Less now," the device said in a flat computer voice. "Gratitude to the small ones." "Small ones?" Jake asked. The alien made more musical sounds, and her skin flashed with blue and gold patterns. "You helped when others would not," the translator said. "I am Queen Zephyra of the Axelon Empire." Jake felt his knees go weak. "Queen? As in the ruler of the entire Axelon Empire?" More sounds from Zephyra and more lights under her armor. "Empire is broken," the translator said. "Betrayer, General Vex, stole throne, killed loyal guards." Lisa and Jake looked at each other. They both knew what this meant. The civil war in the Axelon Empire wasn't just a political dispute, it was a military coup, and they had rescued the rightful ruler. "Great," Jake said. "I've rescued the most wanted alien in the galaxy." Zephyra made more sounds, urgent this time. Her skin. Patterns flashed red and orange. "Danger comes," the translator said. "Vex hunts for Zephyra will pay humans to capture." "Bounty hunters," Lisa said grimly. "If word gets out that the Queen is alive, every mercenary in the sector will be looking for her." Jake's computer chose that moment to beep with an incoming message. "Incoming transmission from Ryan Collins," the computer announced. "Put him through," Jake said. Ryan was an old friend who worked as a trader in the border systems. He often had information about what was happening in the galaxy. Ryan's weathered face appeared on the screen. He was a man in his 40s with gray hair and worry lines around his eyes. "Jake, please tell me you're somewhere safe and boring right now." "Why? What's going on?" "Word just came through the traitor networks. That Axelon General Vex just put out a bounty that's got every hunter in the galaxy excited. 5 million credits for the capture of Queen Zephyra, dead or alive." Jake felt his stomach drop. 5 million credits was more money than most people saw in their entire lives. It was enough to make even honest people consider becoming bounty hunters. "But here's the really bad part," Ryan continued. "Vex has hired human mercenaries to help with the hunt. He's telling everyone that humans are better at tracking prey that doesn't want to be found." "Human mercenaries?" "The worst kind. Ex-military, ex-pirates. The kind of people who don't care who gets hurt as long as they get paid." Ryan leaned closer to the screen. "Jake, if you hear anything about this queen, you need to stay as far away as possible. These people will kill anyone who gets in their way." Jake looked at Lisa, then at Queen Zephyra lying on his medical table. "Ryan, hypothetically, what would you do if you found her first?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. "Hypothetically, I'd try to get her somewhere safe. Because if Vex captures her, he won't just kill her. He'll make an example of her that will break the spirit of every Axelon who might still be loyal to the old empire." After Jake ended the call, the three of them sat in silence for a while. Queen Zephyra's translator eventually spoke again. "There is a place," it said, "hidden world, called Sanctuary Prime. Loyal ones. Wait there." "How far?" Lisa asked. "Many days, through dangerous space. Hegemony ships. Patrol the routes." Jake had heard of the Hegemony Collective. They were a group of machine intelligences that conquered planets and stripped them of resources. If they were working with General Vex, the situation was even worse than he thought. "So we have to get you to Sanctuary Prime," Jake said, "while avoiding bounty hunters, mercenaries, rebel Axelons, and machine ships." "Sounds like a typical Tuesday." "For you, Jake," Lisa said with a grim smile. Jake looked at Queen Zephyra. Even hurt and far from home, she had a dignity about her that made him want to help. Besides, he had already made his choice when he decided to rescue her. "All right," he said. "Let's go save an empire." The journey to Sanctuary Prime started badly and got worse. Jake's ship was built for salvage work, not for running from enemies. The Lucky Strike was slow, loud, and had a heat signature that could be detected from halfway across a solar system. But it was all they had. Lisa had upgraded some of the ship's systems with equipment from her own vessel, but there was only so much she could do. Queen Zephyra was getting stronger, but she was still weak from her injuries. The Universal Translator helped them communicate, but it was slow and sometimes got things wrong. Amy Foster joined them at a supply station near the border of Hegemony space. She was a young medical technician who specialized in alien biology. Lisa had called her for help with Zephyra's recovery, but Amy also brought bad news. "The whole sector is buzzing with news about the bounty," Amy said as she examined Zephyra. 5 million credits has brought out every hunter, mercenary, and desperate fool with a ship. Some of them are working together now, sharing information, and dividing up search areas. Amy was a small woman with blonde hair and gentle hands. She worked carefully with Zephyra, using both human medicine and techniques she had learned from studying alien physiology. Zephyra seemed to trust her quickly, which was good because they needed the Queen healthy if they were going to survive what was coming. Their first real test came 2 days into the journey. Jake was piloting through an asteroid field when his sensors picked up 3 ships moving to intercept them. The ships were sleek and silver with the geometric designs that marked them as hegemony vessels. "Hegemony Patrol," Lisa said, reading the scanner data. "They're fast and heavily armed." "Can we outrun them?" Amy asked. "Not a chance," Jake replied. He was already pushing his engines as hard as they would go, but the Lucky Strike was still slower than the patrol ships. "We're going to have to fight or hide." "Fighting 3 hegemony ships would be suicide," Lisa said. Jake grinned. "Then we hide. Everybody hold on." He dove his ship straight down into the asteroid field, weaving between rocks the size of mountains. The hegemony ships followed, but they were built for open space combat, not asteroid dodging. Jake had grown up playing in asteroid fields, and he knew every trick. "Jake, you're going to get us all killed," Lisa said, as a massive rock missed them by inches. "Trust me," Jake said. He was completely focused now, his hands moving over the controls like he was playing a musical instrument. The Lucky Strike twisted and turned through the asteroids, using the rocks as shields. The hegemony ships were having trouble keeping up. They were faster, but they couldn't take the risks that Jake was taking. One of them clipped an asteroid and had to fall back with engine damage. But they were still being hunted, and Jake knew he couldn't keep this up forever. His ship was old, and the engines were starting to overheat from the stress. That was when Zephyra surprised everyone. Fire. Queen struggled to sit up on her medical bed and placed her hands on the ship's wall. Her bio-armor began to glow, and strange patterns of light spread from her touch across the metal surfaces of the ship. "What is she doing?" Amy asked. "I don't know," Lisa said, checking her instruments. "But our engine efficiency just increased by 30%. Jake felt his ship respond differently to the controls. It was faster, more agile, and the engines weren't overheating anymore. Somehow, Zephyra was interfacing with the ship's systems, using her natural bioelectric abilities to boost their performance. "Axelon biotechnology," the Queen's translator said weakly. "Ship systems can be improved with biological interface." Jake used the extra speed and maneuverability to lose the remaining hegemony ships in the asteroid field. When they finally emerged into open space, the patrol was nowhere to be seen. "That was incredible," Amy said. "How did you do that?" "Royal training," Zephyra's translator replied. "Queens learn to bond with living ships. Your ship, not living, but metal remembers. Organic touch." Their celebration was cut short when they reached the next supply station. Ryan Collins was waiting for them with supplies and more bad news. "Human bounty hunters tracked you to the last station," Ryan said as they loaded food and fuel. "They're good, Jake. Military trained, well equipped, and they're getting close." "How close?" Lisa asked. "Close enough that you need to leave now." Ryan handed Jake a data pad. "I've got a route that might work, but it goes through some nasty territory." Jake looked at the route. It would take them through several systems, controlled by pirates and raiders. Not exactly safe, but better than dealing with organized bounty hunters. They were preparing to leave when the attack came. 3 human ships dropped out of hyperspace near the station. They were fast attack vessels, the kind used by mercenaries and military special forces. Jake recognized the design immediately. "Those are Hunter-class ships," he said. "Military-grade weapons and armor." "This is Captain Buck Walker," a voice said over the communication system. "We know you have the Axelon Queen aboard your vessel. Surrender now and nobody gets hurt." "Like hell," Jake said. He started the Lucky Strike's engines and headed for open space. The chase that followed was intense. The bounty hunters were skilled. pilots with better ships, but Jake had advantages they didn't expect. Zephyra continued to interface with his ship, boosting its performance beyond normal limits. Lisa used her engineering skills to reroute power and make emergency repairs during combat. Amy stayed with Zephyra, keeping the Queen stable while she used her abilities to help the ship. It was dangerous for Zephyra to interface for so long, but without her help, they would have been captured or destroyed quickly. The fighting was close and desperate. Jake used every trick he knew, flying through debris fields, using gravity wells from planets to slingshot past the hunters, and even flying through the outer atmosphere of a gas giant to lose them in the storms. During the chase, they were joined by an unexpected ally. A small fighter ship appeared and began attacking the bounty hunters. The pilot was skilled and aggressive, and his ship had Axelon markings. Unknown. Axelon fighter, identify yourself, Lisa said over the communication system. I am Krill, warrior, of the Royal Guard, came the reply. I serve Queen Zephyra. Krill's ship was fast and deadly. He had survived the massacre of the Royal Guard and had been searching for his queen ever since. With his help, they managed to drive off the bounty hunters, though Jake's ship was damaged in the fighting. After the battle, Krill docked with the Lucky Strike. He was young for an Axelon, with bright green bio-armor and 4 arms that moved with military precision. When he saw Queen Zephyra, he knelt immediately. My queen, he said through his own translator. I thought you were dead. Krill survived, Zephyra said, and Jake could hear the relief in her musical voice. Good warrior. Loyal heart. Krill brought important information. General Vex wasn't just planning to kill Queen Zephyra. He had made a deal with the hegemony. Collective. In exchange for helping them conquer the Axelon Empire, the machines would give him control of the outer colonies. It was a complete betrayal of his own people. The resistance on Sanctuary Prime is strong, Krill reported. But Vex has found the hidden world. He is gathering his fleet for a final attack. Jake looked around at his small crew. They had managed to rescue the Queen and escape the bounty hunters, but now they faced an even bigger challenge. They had to get to Sanctuary Prime before Vex destroyed the last hope of the Axelon Empire. How long do we have? Jake asked. Days, maybe less, Krill replied. Vex moves quickly now. He knows that if the Queen reaches the Resistance, she can rally the Empire against him. Jake made his decision. Then we better get moving. We've got an Empire to save. As the Lucky Strike jumped to hyperspace, Jake wondered if his small crew could really make a difference against an entire rebel fleet. But he had learned something important during the chase. When humans and Axelons worked together, they could do things that neither species could do alone. It would have to be enough. When they reached Sanctuary Prime, Jake's heart sank. The hidden world was beautiful, with crystal cities that grew from the ground like trees and oceans that sparkled with bioluminescent life. But it was under attack. General Vex's fleet surrounded the planet like a metal cage. Hundreds of ships filled the space around Sanctuary Prime, from massive battleships to small fighters. The Hegemony Collective had sent their own vessels too, cold geometric ships that looked like flying weapons. We're too late, Amy whispered as she watched the battle on the scanner screen. No, Queen Zephyra said firmly. Her translator had been improved during their journey, and now it captured more of the emotion in her voice. The Resistance still fights. I can feel them through the planet's bio-network. Jake had learned that Axelon worlds were more than just planets. They were living systems, with plant and animal life that worked together like a giant organism. The cities were grown rather than built, and the people could communicate with their world through biological connections. "The resistance is hiding in the underground caverns," Krill reported from his fighter. "But Vex has them trapped. His ships control all the space around the planet." Jake studied the enemy fleet on his scanner. There were too many ships to fight directly, even if they had a full battle fleet instead of one salvage ship and a fighter. But Jake had spent his life figuring out how to solve problems with limited resources. "Lisa, you still have those computer virus programs you designed in the military?" "Several of them," Lisa replied. "But they're designed for human-computer systems. Axelon and hegemony technology is completely different." "What if we could combine them with Axelon biotechnology?" Jake asked. "Make something that could attack both types of systems?" Lisa thought for a moment. "It might be possible, but we'd need direct access to enemy ship systems to upload it." "I've got an idea about that," Jake said, "but it's crazy and dangerous. And it depends on Queen Zephyra doing something that might kill her." He explained his plan. It was simple in concept, but almost impossible to execute. They would pretend that Ryan Collins was betraying them, turning Jake and his crew over to Vex for the bounty. This would get them close to Vex's flagship. Then they would have to fight their way to the ship's central computer core, where Zephyra would interface directly with the enemy systems. "The danger is enormous," Amy said after Jake finished explaining. "Zephyra is still recovering from her injuries. Interfacing with hostile computer systems could kill her." "But if it works," Zephyra said through her translator, "we can turn Vex's own fleet against the hegemony ships. The confusion might give the resistance time to escape or counterattack. The plan required perfect timing and a lot of luck." Ryan would approach Vex's flagship with Jake's ship as his prisoner. Meanwhile, Krill would position his fighter for a surprise attack. Lisa and Amy would prepare the hybrid virus, while Jake and Krill fought their way through the flagship to reach the computer core. As they prepared for the mission, Jake found himself alone with Queen Zephyra. The alien queen was checking her bio-armor, making sure all the systems were working properly. "Why did you save me?" she asked through the translator. "You could have taken the bounty money and lived comfortably for the rest of your life." Jake thought about the question. "Where I grew up, we had a saying, 'Rich or poor, we all bleed the same color.' I guess it doesn't matter if you're human or Axelon. Nobody should die alone when someone can help." Zephyra's bio-armor glowed with soft blue light. In our culture, we have a similar concept. All life flows from the same source. I think our peoples have more in common than either side realizes. The mission began with Ryan Collins contacting Vex's flagship. "This is independent trader Ryan Collins," he said over the communication system. "I have Jake Martinez and his crew aboard my ship along with the package you're looking for." There was a long pause before Vex replied. His voice was cold and mechanical, distorted by translation equipment. "Bring them aboard immediately, and Collins, if this is a deception, you will suffer the same fate as the Queen." Ryan's ship approached the flagship with Jake's vessel in tow. The flagship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of Jake's ship. Its bio-armor hull was black and silver, covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. It looked like a predator designed for killing. As they docked, Jake felt his stomach twist with nervousness. Everything depended on the next few minutes going exactly according to plan. Ryan led Jake, Lisa, and Amy onto the flagship as prisoners, with their hands bound behind their backs. Queen Zephyra was carried on a medical stretcher, supposedly unconscious. Krill remained hidden in his fighter, waiting for the signal to attack. General Vex met them in the flagship's main hangar. He was tall and imposing, with bio-armor that was darker and more angular than Zephyra's. Battle scars covered his armor, and his four arms moved with predatory grace. "So," Vex said, his translator making his voice sound like grinding metal, "the great Queen Zephyra reduced to cargo on a human salvage ship. How fitting." Jake forced himself to stay calm as Vex approached the stretcher. The general reached out to touch Zephyra's face, probably planning to verify that she was really unconscious. That's when the plan went into action. Zephyra's eyes snapped open, and her bio-armor blazed with electric fire. She grabbed Vex's arm and sent a powerful bioelectric shock through his systems. The general screamed and stumbled backward, his armor sparking and smoking. At the same moment, Ryan, Jake, Lisa, and Amy threw off their fake restraints and pulled out weapons. Krill's fighter burst through the hangar's force field and began shooting at Vex's guards. The fight in the hangar was fast and brutal. Vex's soldiers were well-trained and heavily armed, but they hadn't expected a coordinated attack. Jake and Krill fought side by side, using human tactics and Axelon technology to overcome superior numbers. While the battle raged, Lisa and Amy worked frantically to install their hybrid virus into one of the hangar's computer terminals. The virus was designed to spread through the ship's network, taking control of both the biological and mechanical systems. "It's working!" Lisa shouted over the sound of weapons fire. "The virus is spreading through the ship's bio-neural network." But they weren't finished yet. To complete the plan, Zephyra had to reach the ship's central core and take direct control of the entire fleet. The core was deep inside the flagship, protected by layers of security and Vex's best soldiers. Vex himself was still dangerous despite the bioelectric shock. His armor was damaged but functional, and he was furious. "You think you can defeat the future?" he roared as he advanced on Zephyra. "The hegemony offers order and strength. Your empire was weak and dying." "The empire served all life," Zephyra replied, her bio-armor glowing brighter as she prepared for battle. "You serve only yourself." The fight between the two Axelons was like watching force of nature clash with corrupted machinery. Zephyra fought with grace and flowing movements, while Vex attacked with brutal strength and military precision. But Zephyra was still weak from her injuries, and Vex had the advantage of fresh armor and weapons. Jake realized that Zephyra couldn't win the fight and reach the core at the same time. He made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. "Krill, get the Queen to the core!" he shouted. "I'll handle Vex." "Jake, are you insane?" Lisa called out. "He'll kill you." "Maybe," Jake said, charging at the alien general with nothing but a human weapon and a lot of determination. "But somebody has to try." The human attack caught Vex off guard. He had been focused on fighting another Axelon, not a small human with outdated weapons. Jake used his speed and unpredictability to stay alive, diving and rolling, while Krill helped Zephyra reach the corridor leading to the ship's core. Jake couldn't hurt Vex seriously, but he could distract him and slow him down. Every second he bought was another second for Zephyra to reach the core and take control of the fleet. As Jake fought for his life against an enemy that could kill him with one blow, he thought about how strange his life had become. A few weeks ago, he had been a simple salvage worker. Now he was fighting an alien general to save an empire. But he wasn't fighting alone. Amy appeared beside him with a medical scanner modified to disrupt Axelon bio-armor. Lisa joined them with an engineering tool that could overload electrical systems. Ryan came running with a weapon he had taken from one of Vex's soldiers. Working together, the humans managed to keep Vex busy long enough for Zephyra and Krill to reach the core. But Jake knew they were running out of time. Vex was too strong, and too well armed for them to fight much longer. Then the ship's lights began to flicker, and Jake heard the sound of Zephyr's voice echoing through the bio-neural network. The real battle was just beginning. When Queen Zephyra reached the flagship's central core, she found a room that pulsed with living light. The core was a fusion of biological and mechanical systems, with organic neural networks connecting to computer processors. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Krill stood guard at the entrance while Zephyra approached the central interface. The connection process would be dangerous. Interfacing with the ship's systems while they were actively resisting her could burn out her nervous system, but it was the only way to take control of Vex's entire fleet. "My queen," Krill said urgently. "Vex is fighting his way toward us. The humans are slowing him down, but not for long." Zephyra placed her 4 hands on the interface nodes. Immediately, pain shot through her body as the hostile systems tried to reject her connection. Vex had programmed the ship's bio-neural network to resist any unauthorized access, especially from the royal family. But Zephyra was not just any member of the royal family. She was the queen, and her bioelectric signature was coded into every Axelon ship ever built. The systems recognized her even as they fought against her control. Meanwhile, in the hangar, Jake and his friends were losing their battle against General Vex. The alien general was wounded, but still dangerous. And more of his soldiers were arriving every minute. "Jake, we need to get out of here," Lisa shouted as she ducked behind a damaged fighter to avoid weapons fire. "Not without finishing this," Jake replied. He could hear the sound of the ship's systems changing, feel the vibration of power being rerouted through the hull. Zephyra was doing something incredible, but she needed more time. Vex advanced on their position, his bio-armor sparking from damage, but his weapons still functional. "Your queen is dying in the core," he said with cold satisfaction. "The ship's defenses are destroying her nervous system. Soon she will be dead, and this rebellion will end." Jake felt a surge of anger. "You betrayed your own people for what? Money? Power? For survival!" Vex roared. "The Hegemony Collective is the future. Biological life is inefficient, emotional, weak. The machines offer perfection." "Perfection without heart," Amy said, appearing beside Jake with a medical scanner, jury-rigged as a weapon. "That's not perfection. That's death." The argument was interrupted by a change in the ship's lighting. The bioluminescent panels that lined the walls began to pulse in rhythm, like a giant heartbeat. Zephyra's voice echoed through the neural network, speaking in the musical language of her people. "What is she saying?" Ryan asked. Krill's voice came over their communication devices. "She speaks to the fleet. She reminds them of their oath to protect all life, not to destroy it." Throughout Vex's fleet, the same thing was happening. Queen Zephyra's bioelectric signature was spreading through the bio-neural networks of every Axelon ship. The crews who had followed Vex out of fear or misguided loyalty heard their true queen's voice for the first time in months. But the process was killing her. In the core, Zephyra's bio-armor was overloading from the strain of controlling so many systems at once. Her life signs were failing as she pushed her abilities beyond their limits. Jake realized that the queen was sacrificing herself to save her people. Unless someone could find a way to help her, she would die in the act of reclaiming her empire. That's when Jake had an idea that was so crazy it might actually work. "Lisa, can you connect the ship's power grid to the core?" "Theoretically, but why would you want to—" Lisa stopped as she understood what Jake was planning. "Jake, no. That's suicide." "Maybe not. Amy, You said that Axelon bioarmor can interface with electrical systems, right? Yes, but humans don't have bioarmor. If you try to interface directly with the ship's power grid, it will fry every nerve in your body. Jake was already moving toward the core access panel. Then I guess I better be quick about it. Jake, stop! Lisa called out, but he was already connecting himself to the ship's power systems using a combination of human engineering and desperate improvisation. The electrical shock should have killed him instantly. Human nervous systems weren't designed to handle the kind of power that flowed through Axelon ships. But Jake had grown up working with dangerous electrical systems, and he had spent weeks learning about Axelon technology from Queen Zephyra. Instead of letting the power flow through him, Jake used his understanding of both human and Axelon systems to create a feedback loop. He became a living circuit breaker, regulating the power flow to the core and taking some of the strain off Zephyra's overloaded nervous system. It felt like being struck by lightning while sticking his finger in an electrical outlet. Pain shot through every nerve in his body, and he could smell his own hair burning. But it was working. Zephyra's life signs stabilized, and her control over the fleet grew stronger. Throughout the space around Sanctuary Prime, Axelon ships began turning their weapons on the hegemony vessels. The bio-neural network that Vex had used to control his fleet was now broadcasting Queen Zephyra's commands instead. General Vex watched in horror as his carefully planned coup fell apart around him. "Impossible!" he screamed. "No biological system can interface with pure electrical power." "You're right," Jake said through gritted teeth as electricity coursed through his body. "But humans are too stupid to know what's impossible." The battle in space was turning into a rout. The hegemony ships, faced with the entire Axelon fleet turning against them, began to retreat. Some of Vex's supporters surrendered immediately when they heard their queen's voice. Others tried to fight but were quickly overwhelmed. In the core, Queen Zephyra completed her takeover of the ship's systems, but she was dying from the effort, her bio-armor flickering as her life force faded. Jake knew he had to do something more. The electrical interface was keeping Zephyra alive, but it wasn't healing the damage that had already been done. He needed to find a way to reverse the process, to give back some of the life force she had expended. Using every bit of knowledge he had gained about Axelon technology, Jake began to redirect the ship's bioenergy systems. Instead of drawing power from Zephyra, the ship would give power back to her. It was like performing surgery with lightning, requiring perfect timing and incredible luck. Amy appeared beside him, somehow having fought her way through Vex's remaining soldiers. "Jake, your vital signs are all over the place. You're going to die if you keep this up." "Not yet," Jake said. His vision was blurring, and his hands were shaking from the electrical overload, but he could feel Zephyra getting stronger. "Just a little longer." Lisa and Ryan joined them, along with Krill, who had abandoned his guard post to help. Working together, they managed to stabilize both Jake's improvised interface and Zephyra's connection to the ship's core. The effort finally broke General Vex's spirit. Seeing his fleet turned against him, his plans in ruins, and his flagship controlled by the queen he had tried to kill, he simply stopped fighting. When Jake's friends finally overpowered him, he offered no resistance. In the aftermath of the battle, Queen Zephyra emerged from the core chamber. She was weak, but alive, her bio-armor glowing with soft blue light. Jake was barely conscious, his body exhausted from interfacing with systems that should have killed him. "The human risks his life for strangers," Zephyra said, her translator, now perfectly calibrating her musical voice. This is why the alliance between our peoples will be strong. The rescue was complete, but it was also the beginning of something new. As news of Queen Zephyra's return spread through the galaxy, other worlds began to reconsider their relationships with both the Axalon Empire and humanity. The machines of the Hegemony Collective retreated to their own space, faced with the unexpected alliance between biological species. Jake spent several days recovering in the flagship's medical bay. Amy worked with Axalon healers to repair the damage the electrical interface had done to his nervous system. He would carry some scars for the rest of his life, but he was alive and mostly functional. When he was well enough to walk around, Jake found Queen Zephyra on the ship's observation deck, looking out at Sanctuary Prime. The planet was beautiful again, its crystal cities gleaming in the light of its star. "So what happens now?" Jake asked. "Now we rebuild," Zephyra replied. "But not the empire that was before. Something new, something that includes the best of both our peoples." Jake nodded. "And Vex? He will be tried by our courts, but he will live. Even traitors deserve justice, not revenge." Queen Zephyra turned to look at Jake with her golden eyes. "There is something I want to offer you. A position in the new government. A chance to help build the alliance between humans and Axalons." Jake thought about it for a moment. A few weeks ago, he had been a poor salvage worker with nothing but an old ship and a handful of dreams. Now he was being offered a chance to help shape the future of two civilizations. "Thanks," he said finally, "but I think I'll stick with salvage work. The galaxy's a big place, and there are probably other people out there who need help." Zephyra's bio-armor glowed with what Jake had learned was amusement. "I thought you might say that. But the offer stands, whenever you change your mind." A few days later, Jake was back aboard the Lucky Strike with Lisa, Amy, and Ryan. They had refused all offers of reward money, though Queen Zephyra had insisted on upgrading their ships with some basic Axalon biotechnology. As they prepared to leave Sanctuary Prime, Jake received one last message from